At 8:41 on a Thursday, my blind date stood up, said she needed some air, and walked out of Fenimore's with her coat still hanging on the back of her chair. I want to point out that the coat suggested a plan to return. There was no plan. I did not know that yet. At 8:41, I was buttering bread I did not want. I am a person who fills a silence with a task. The bread was the only task available. Her name was Thea Cardoso, 27, dental hygienist. My friend Ilsa had described her as warm, funny, and slightly unhinged about her cat. All three turned out to be true. None of them helped. We had been at that table 34 minutes. I had counted. I want to be honest about the counting straight away. I count things. It is not a charming quirk. It is a coping mechanism with a receipt. Minutes 1 to 20 were good. Genuinely good. At minute 21, a woman walked in and was seated 4 tables away. Vero saw her. I watched Vero see her. It is a specific thing, watching somebody's whole face reorganize itself. The eyes go first. The mouth catches up and pretends nothing happened. "Sorry," she said. "What were you saying?" "The bread." "Right, the bread." She did not hear one word about the bread. Minutes 22 to 33 were a slow, polite collapse. Twice she looked at the door. At minute 34, she said she needed air. I said, "Of course." I am very good at saying of course. Then I sat alone at a table for 2 with a coat that was not mine. 14 minutes. That is how long I sat there. Long enough for the couple behind me to get their mains. Long enough for the waiter to pass twice and decide kindly not to ask. Then somebody pulled out the empty chair. I looked up, ready to be gracious about a coat collection. It was not Vero. The woman standing over me was taller and older and much calmer. Long dark hair, one small braid at her temple. She was holding 2 menus she had clearly taken from somewhere she should not have taken menus from. "She's in the car," she said. "She's crying. She's fine. She'll be fine in about an hour." "I'm sorry, who are you?" "Thea," she said. "Thea Cardoso. I'm the sister." The sister. I drove her here. Her car's been dead since March. I was going to sit at the bar for 2 hours and read. I looked at the coat on the chair. "You can take that," I said. "I'll get the bill." She looked at the coat, then at me. Then she sat down. "Order the dessert," she said. "I'm staying." I want to be clear that I said no. I said no 4 times. "You don't have to do this." "I know. This is a pity thing." "It isn't. It's absolutely a pity thing." "Romy," she said, "I have been sitting at a bar for 38 minutes with a book about joinery. Let me have the dessert." That is when I noticed she knew my name. "Did she tell you my name?" "She told me your name 11 times in the car on Tuesday." That seems like a lot. It was a lot. I did not know what to do with that. So I did what I do. I picked up the bread knife again. "You've destroyed that bread," she said. "It was already sourdough." That is not a defense. It's the only one I've got. The corner of her mouth moved. Not a smile. Adjacent to a smile. "How long have you been sitting at that bar?" I said. "Since 20 past 8. You watch the whole thing." "I watch some of the whole thing." "Which part?" "The part where she looked at the door twice and you kept talking about bread." I put my face in my hands. That's the worst sentence anybody has ever said to me. "You were very good about it." "I was not good about it. I was polite. They're not the same." "No," she said. "They're really not." She took her coat off then, finally, and hung it over the back of the chair next to her sister's, so that there were 2 coats on 2 chairs, and one of them belonged to somebody who had gone. I looked at those 2 coats for a second too long. "What?" she said. "Nothing. Romy. I was working out which one of you is worse." "Me?" said Thea. "Obviously me." Before we return to the story, a quick note for my lovely viewers. While this YouTube series keeps things safe, my Patreon, GL After Hours, is where the real fun happens. That's where you'll find completely uncensored GL stories, much hotter exclusive videos, and bolder adventures that are just too spicy for YouTube. If you want the full No Limits experience and to support more of this kind of storytelling, the Patreon link is in the description below. "So," I said, "is she okay? Her ex is at table 9. "Ah, with somebody. Ah, Vero has known about the somebody for 6 weeks. She thought she was over it. She has now learned otherwise in public, wearing her good shirt. That's brutal." "It's Thursday," Thea said. The waiter arrived. He looked at the new woman in the chair. He looked at me. He decided he had seen worse. "2 desserts," Thea said, "and whatever the mains were." There weren't mains. Then mains as well. "You are ordering an entire dinner." "You've had bread and a humiliation that's not dinner." I laughed. It came out too loud. The couple behind me heard it. "Sorry," I said. "Why?" "Habit." She turned her silver ring around her thumb once and put both forearms on the table. "Here is what I do for a living, because it matters later. I work the returns and exchanges counter at Pallister's, which is a 4-floor department store in Thurlby that has been dying gracefully since before I was born. 2nd floor, past the luggage. There is a sign above me that says returns and exchanges in gold on green. It is the nicest sign in the building, and nobody looks at it. 9 hours a day, people bring me things they do not want. They bring the thing. They bring the receipt, if we are lucky, and they fill in a small paper slip that has a box on it that says, reason for return. Nobody writes the real reason in that box. I have read 40,000 of those slips. I am not exaggerating. 6 years, roughly 30 a day. 40,000. They write unsuitable. They write wrong size. Once, in November, a man wrote, did not work out, about a lamp. The lamp worked. I plugged it in. I checked. Returns, Thea said, when I told her. That's an actual job? It's my actual job. What's the strangest thing anyone's brought back? A wedding dress? That's not strange. With a receipt from 1991. She put her glass down. Say that again. 1991. Her mother bought it. She said her mother had died in February. The dress had been in a box in a wardrobe for 33 years. She did not want it. She also did not want to throw it away. So she brought it to a shop. What did you do? I took it. You can't take a dress from 1991. I know. So what did you put in the system? Goodwill gesture, 8 pounds. Thea looked at me for slightly too long. What? I said. Nothing. You're doing a face. I'm not doing a face. She was absolutely doing a face. The mains came, then the desserts came, because she had ordered them at the same time, which is a war crime, and I said so. They arrive when they arrive, she said. Dessert has an order in the sentence. It's in the word. Is it? Dessert, after. That's not what that means. It should be. She ate her dessert first out of what I can only describe as spite. I asked what she did. Upholstery. Like sofas? Sofas, chairs, church pews once, which I would not do again. Benches, anything you sit on that somebody has ruined. Do people ruin a lot of chairs? People ruin every chair. How? By sitting in the same corner of it for 11 years. I thought about that longer than the moment required. Here's the thing nobody knows about chairs, she said. The frame is nearly always fine. Oak, beech, whatever. 200 years old and completely fine. It's the seat that gives out. The webbing goes, the springs come loose, and then everybody says the chair is broken and puts it out on the pavement in the rain. And it isn't broken. It's almost never broken. I said, "That's a bit much for a Thursday." She said, "You asked?" At 10:30, Vero came back in. She had fixed her face in a car mirror, which never works, and she stood at the end of our table with her arms folded like a person about to be sentenced. "I'm so sorry," she said. "Romy, I'm so sorry." "It's fine." "It's not fine, I left." "Who does that?" "People whose ex is at table 9. Vero looked at her sister. "You told her." "She was going to work it out." "I was going to say I had a work thing." At 8:30 on a Thursday? People have work things. "Not you," Thea said. "You clean teeth." Vero sat down on the arm of the banquette and put her head in her hands and made a small noise. "Did you order dessert?" she said from inside her hands. "We ordered everything," I said. "Both of you?" She wouldn't leave. Vero lifted her head and looked at Thea for about 2 seconds. "No," she said slowly. She wouldn't. They drove me home. I sat in the back of a van that smelled of glue and old wool. I sat between 2 rolls of green fabric. There was a staple gun by my foot that I was told repeatedly not to touch. "Don't touch the staple gun." "I'm not touching it." "You're looking at it." Looking is free. Vero talked the whole way. About the ex, whose name was Dilly. About the cat. About a colleague who had recently, in her words, gone rogue with the appointment book. Thea did not talk. She drove with both hands on the wheel and her eyes on the road. Every so often, she said one word into a gap in her sister's sentences. The word always landed. At my street, she pulled up and left the engine running. "Which one?" "The blue door." "The blue door is nice." "It's not blue." "It's a color called storm. I have been told this many times by the landlord." "It's blue," she said. I got out. Vero hugged me through the window and apologized twice more. Then Thea said, "Romy." I turned around. "Yes?" "Nothing," she said. "Good night." And she drove off. I stood on the pavement in the cold for a full minute, working out what that was. I did not work it out. I went to bed. On Monday, I was back behind the green and gold sign with a queue of 9 people and a headache. I want to describe Pallister's properly because I loved it, and because I did not know I loved it until later. 4 floors, wooden escalators that groaned, a lift with a folding brass gate that a man called Ray operated until 1998, and that nobody has been able to fix since. Carpet the color of weak tea. A perfume hall on the ground floor where my friend Ilsa stood all day being pleasant to people about bergamot. And on the 2nd floor, past the luggage, me. I had a stool I was not supposed to sit on. I had a queue. I had a drawer. In that drawer, I had a brass hand stamp that said, "Received." It was my grandfather's. He worked goods in at Pallister's for 22 years. The stamp has not been part of the system since 2009. I keep it anyway. Sometimes, when nobody is looking, I stamp the back of a slip and put it in the file. I know how that sounds.
If this story stayed with you, Hit subscribe so the next one can find you. Stay close.
Sylvie Prendergast runs the alterations booth 12 feet from my counter. She is 69. She has been at Pallister since she was 17. She keeps pins in the front of her cardigan in a row like a metal ribbon. She has an opinion about everybody in the building. She is always right. That is the worst part. At 10:30, she came over with 2 teas. "You're doing the face," she said. "I'm not doing a face." "You've been doing the face since you clocked in." "I had a bad date." "How bad?" "She left." During. Sylvie put my tea down. "And?" "And what?" "There's an and. You said it like there's an and." I told her about the empty chair. I told her about the sister who sat in it. Sylvie listened with her arms folded and her head slightly on one side. When I finished, she took a pin out of her cardigan. She put it back in a different place. That is a thing she does when she has decided something. "Right," she said. "Right what?" "Nothing." "Sylvie, drink your tea, Romy." Otto Bramal is 19 and works in the stockroom and drives the pallet truck as though he is being chased. At noon, he arrived at my counter at speed. "There's a woman," he said. "There are lots of women. It's a shop." "There's a woman in furnishings measuring the fitting room bench." "Okay." With a tape measure, properly, on her knees. "That'll be the upholsterer," I said. "Head office finally signed it off in—" And then I stopped because I heard my own sentence arriving before I did. She was on the floor of the 3rd floor fitting room corridor with a steel tape and a notebook. She had a pencil behind her ear. Her hair was tied back, one small braid still loose at the temple. "You," I said. She looked up. "Romy Castellanos," she said, like she was confirming an appointment. "You do this bench?" "I do all 4 of them, every 3 years. They've been on that contract since 2011. I've worked here 6 years. I know. You know? I do the 3rd floor at 7 in the morning. You start at 9. So we've been in the same building 14 times, she said. Yes. She wrote a number in her notebook. I stood there feeling something reorganize itself behind my ribs. 14, I said, give or take. You counted. She did not look up. You count, she said. I measure. It's the same disease. I would like to record that I behaved with dignity for the rest of that week. I did not. On Tuesday, I walked past furnishings twice for no reason. On Wednesday, I took the long way to the staff room, which adds 4 minutes and goes past nothing except a fire door and a bench. On Thursday, Ilse caught me. You've gone past here 3 times, she said from behind the bergamot. I'm busy. You're circling. I'm not circling. Romy, I set you up with a woman on Thursday. It is now Thursday again. Explain the circling. There's a bench, I said. Ilse looked at me for a long moment. Oh no, she said, delighted. Oh no. On Friday, the bench came out of the building on a trolley, and Thea came with it. And she stopped at my counter on her way past because there was a slip in her hand. I have to return something, she said. You do not. I do. She put it on the counter. Wrong size. It was a screwdriver. This is from the hardware shop on Vane Street. Is it? We have not sold hardware since 2004. Then I've made an error. You've made an enormous error. Take it anyway. I'm not taking a screwdriver. Goodwill gesture, she said. 8 pounds. I want to tell you that I said something clever. What I actually did was laugh so hard that Sylvie looked over from alterations, and a woman waiting to return a kettle took 2 steps back. The workshop was above a launderette on Bell Row, up a staircase that turned twice. She opened the door. The whole room smelled of glue and cut wool and something faintly like tea. There were 4 chairs in various states of ruin. There was a wall of fabric rolls. There was a low bench with 200 small tools laid out in a way that made me want to lie down. "You can touch anything except that," she said. "What is that?" "That is a horsehair pad from 1890, and it is currently the most valuable thing either of us will ever own." "How valuable?" "Sentimentally." "So not at all." "Correct." I stayed 3 hours. She showed me a seat with the webbing cut out of it. She made me put my hand into the frame. I felt the 200-year-old oak underneath, and I understood the sentence she had said at Fenimore's in a way I had not understood it at the table. "It's fine," I said. "It's completely fine. So it just needs somebody willing to take the whole seat apart. That sounds like a lot of work." "It's 4 days," she said. "Everybody thinks it's a lifetime. It's 4 days." It rained on the way out. Not soft rain, Thurlby rain, the kind that goes sideways and finds the back of your neck. We stood in the doorway at the bottom of the stairs and watched it come down over the launderette sign. The water in the gutter went past our feet, carrying a bus ticket. Neither of us moved to leave. "I'll drive you," she said. "It's 9 minutes. It's raining. It's 9 minutes of rain." She turned her ring around her thumb. I have thought about that ring an unreasonable number of times since. It is a flat silver band, slightly too big, and when she is deciding something, she rolls it half a turn and then back. She rolled it half a turn. She did not roll it back. "Romy," she said. "Yes?" "On Thursday, in the car, when I said your name and then said nothing." "I remember. I was going to ask if I could see you again." The rain kept going. A bus went past and threw water at the curb. "Why didn't you?" I said. "Because my sister was in the passenger seat, crying about her ex. That is a reasonable obstacle." "It was a considerable obstacle." "And now?" "Now she's at work," Thea said. "And it's raining, and I've been thinking about it for 11 days. 11. "You count," she said. "So do I." And then she kissed me in a doorway on Bell Row with the launderette humming through the wall. And I got rain down the back of my neck anyway. And I did not care even slightly. I want to say something about that, because it is the part I have thought about most. I have been asked out 4 times in my adult life. All 4 times I said yes, and all 4 times I said yes in the way you accept a parcel for a neighbor. This was not that. She asked. I said yes. And for the first time in my whole ridiculous life, I noticed that I had wanted the thing before it arrived. That is new information about yourself at 24. It takes a while to file. I told Vero myself. I insisted on it. I would not let Thea do it, because I had decided, in the way you decide things at 2 a.m, that it had to come from me. I did it in a cafe on a Sunday. I had a speech. I had actually written parts of it down. I had a sentence about how none of this was a comment on our Thursday, and a sentence about how I understood if she needed some time. I got 4 words in. "I know," Vero said. "You know, Romy. She has mentioned you every day for 2 weeks. Yesterday, she mentioned you in a conversation about grouting." "Grouting? Grouting." I put my speech down on the table. "Are you all right about it?" Vero thought about it properly, which I appreciated. "I'm mortified," she said. "But that's about the restaurant." "That's a separate mortification. It has its own file." "It has its own file?" "I have a lot of files." Then she said something that I have kept. "She sat down," Vero said. "That's the bit I keep thinking about. I ran away and she sat down. That's the two of us, honestly. That's been the two of us since we were 9. Thurlby in October is a wet gray town with one good hill and a market hall that leaks. We did ordinary things. She came to the store at 7. I came at 9. For 6 weeks, we had 11 minutes on the 3rd floor before anybody else was in the building. 11 minutes is not much. But 11 minutes at 7 in the morning in an empty department store is a very strange and very good amount of time. I learn things. She takes her tea with nothing in it and thinks people who add things are hiding from something. She cannot whistle. She reads 3 pages of a book every night and refuses to read more. And when I asked why, she said, "Because then it lasts." I learn that she says instead of yes when she is tired. I learn that she puts her hand flat on the small of my back when we cross a road every time without appearing to notice she is doing it. I noticed every single time. Sylvie noticed in the 2nd week. She did not ask. She simply began putting 2 teas on my counter instead of 1. And on the Friday she said, without looking up from a hem, "Bring her round the booth. I'd like a look at her." "She's not a coat, Sylvie." "Everybody's a coat." So I brought her round the booth. Sylvie looked at Thea over her glasses for approximately 4 seconds. "Upholsterer," she said. "Yes." "You did the benches in 99. "That was my father." "Cardoso." "Yes." "He did good work," Sylvie said. "He was rude. He was extremely rude." "Good," Sylvie said, and went back to her hem, and that was the whole audition. Afterwards, Thea stood by the escalator with an expression I had not seen before. "What?" I said. "Nobody's mentioned my father in about 6 years." "Was that bad?" "No," she said. "It was the opposite of bad. Her father died 4 years ago. He started the workshop. She took it over at 25, in the middle of everything. She did not talk about it much. I did not push. I am a person who does not push. And I thought at the time that this was a kind of respect. I have since revised that. Otto found out because Otto finds out everything. He arrived at my counter at 10 to 9 on a Tuesday, holding a box of hangers he did not need to be holding. "So," he said. "No, I haven't said anything." "You've said so. The bench woman, Otto, everyone knows." "Who is everyone?" "Stockroom, perfume, both tills on ground, Ray. Ray retired in 1998. Ray still knows." I put my head on the counter. "How long?" I said. "Since the screwdriver." "That was 5 weeks ago." "Yeah," said Otto, "it was a really good screwdriver. The staff Christmas thing at Pallister's happens in the 1st week of December, in the furniture department, after close, and it is the worst party in the north of England. I say that with love. They push the sofas into a horseshoe. Somebody plugs a speaker into an extension lead that runs the length of beds. There is a buffet on a nest of tables that are for sale. I asked Thea to come. That was the 2nd thing I ever asked her for out loud, and I did it in a text, which I maintain is still asking, "Is it fancy?" "It is a shop." "Romy." "There will be a man called Barry in a waistcoat." "I'll come," she said. She came. She stood in the furniture department in a dark green shirt, holding a paper cup of warm wine, and within 20 minutes, she had been cornered by 3 separate people about a chair. I watched from over by beds. Ilse came and stood next to me with 2 paper cups. "She's very calm," Ilse said. "She's the calmest person I've ever met." "Is that good?" "I keep waiting for it to be a trick." "It's not a trick, Romy." "I know." "Do you?" I did not answer that, because at that exact moment, Otto put the speaker on the wrong setting, and the whole of furnishings filled up with a song from 1986 at a volume that made a lamp fall over. Sylvie danced with Barry. I want that recorded somewhere permanent. At about 11, we ended up sitting on a 3-seater sofa that had a red reduced sticker on the arm. 240 pounds, Thea read. "Is that good?" "It's a terrible sofa." "It's very comfortable." "That's the whole crime," she said. "It's comfortable now. Come back in 4 years. You are physically incapable of sitting on furniture." I am extremely capable of sitting on furniture. I'm just aware. I put my head on her shoulder. The extension lead went across the floor in front of us with a bit of gaffer tape on it, and the lights were half off, and somewhere behind us Otto was apologizing to a lamp. "I like your shop," she said. "It's not my shop." Said Thea. We had our first proper argument in November, and it was about nothing, which is how you know it was about something. She'd been at my flat for 3 days. Her van was in for its test. My flat is small and I like it small. I have a good chair, 1 lamp, 4 plants that are alive, and a shelf of things I have taken in at the counter over 6 years and could not throw away. She looked at the shelf on the second night. "What is this?" "That's the shelf." "It's a lamp with a note on it." "Did not work out," I said. "It works." "And the shoes?" "Never worn. She'd bought them for a wedding she didn't go to." "And the bear?" "Don't ask about the bear." She picked up the bear. "Somebody returned a bear?" "A man returned a bear in January. He said his daughter had grown out of it?" I could see from his face that his daughter had not grown out of it, so I gave him 11 pounds out of the till. And I have never told anyone that until this exact second. The room went quiet. "Romy, it's fine." "You gave a man money out of the till." "I put it back on Friday. I've always put it back." "How many times?" "Not many." "How many?" "I don't know." "You know." I did know. 19, I said. She sat down on the arm of my good chair, which is a thing her whole family does, and she looked at me the way you look at a chair you're about to take apart. "Can I say something?" she said. "You're going to. You take everything that everybody brings you." "That's the job." "It isn't the job. The job is a policy on a wall. What you do is different. It's 11 pounds. It's 19 times. I don't see the problem." "The problem," she said, "is that in 6 weeks you have not asked me for one thing." I opened my mouth. Then I closed it again. "That's not true." "Name one." "I asked you to bring milk." "That was Vero." "I asked you to..." I stood there in my own flat, with a stuffed bear in my hand, and I could not finish the sentence. Here is the thing I did not say out loud for another 2 months. I know exactly how many people have left. My father left when I was 7 and sent birthday cards until I was 11. My mother worked at Pallister's ground floor and did nights at a hotel and was tired for 20 years and is now, thankfully, tired somewhere warmer, in Portugal, with a man called Nuno who is fine. I did not have a tragedy. I want to be clear. I had a small, ordinary, extremely common childhood in which the safest thing you could possibly be was easy. Easy people do not get left. That is not true, obviously. But you do not learn it as an argument. You learn it as a habit, and habits do not respond to arguments. So I got very good at the counter. You bring me the thing. I take the thing. I do not ask why. I write unsuitable in the box for you, if you like, so you do not have to. I'm not asking you to be difficult, Thea said. I'm asking you to want something in front of me. Why does it matter? Because I can't give you anything if you won't tell me what it is. You could guess. I could guess wrong. Then guess wrong. She looked at me for a long moment. All right, she said. I'm guessing you want me to stay tonight. That's not a guess. Your van's in the garage. I'm guessing, she said, that you want me to stay after the van comes back. The van came back on the Thursday. She loaded her tools into it and drove it round to Bell Row. She came back at 7 that evening with a bag and a plant. She had bought it from the shop under the bridge. She put the plant on the windowsill and did not say anything about it. I did not say anything about it either. It is still there. It has grown. She taught me webbing in December, on a Sunday, because I asked. That was the third thing. You'll be bad at it. I'm aware. People are always bad at it and then they're offended. I will not be offended. I was extremely offended. Here is how you web a chair, in case you ever need to know, which you will not. You turn the frame upside down on a pair of trestles. You take a roll of jute and you cut nothing, because cutting early is the mistake everybody makes. You fold the end over twice. You tack it. 5 tacks, in a W, never in a line, because a line splits the rail. Then you stretch it. There is a tool for the stretching. It is a piece of wood with a rubber face and a row of spikes. And it is called a web strainer. And it is the single most satisfying object I have ever held. You lever it against the frame and the jute goes tight and it makes a sound. The sound is the point. She told me that. It should go like a drum, she said. If it goes like a rope, it's wrong. Mine went like a rope again. I've done it 4 times. Do it a 5th. Thea. Romy, she said, in 4 days this is going to hold a person for 30 years. Do it a 5th. I did it a 5th time. It went like a drum. I turned around with the strainer still in my hand, and I must have had a face on because she laughed properly out loud, which she does about once a fortnight. There, she said, that's it? That's the whole reward? That's the whole reward. That's a terrible reward. You'll be chasing it for the rest of your life, she said. And there is nothing I can do about that now. We worked until 9:30. At the end, there were 11 strips of jute across a frame in a grid, tight as a snare. And the chair was still not finished, because a chair is never finished on the day you can see the grid. I sat on the floor with my back against the trestle. Can I say something without you being weird about it? No. I'm going to anyway. I know. I've never made anything, I said. In 6 years, I have processed 40,000 things and made nothing. She put the strainer down on the bench. You've mended people's Wednesday, she said. That's not the same. No, she said. It's harder. Dilly came back in December. Not to me, to Vero. That is an important distinction, and I lost hold of it for about 9 days. She turned up at the workshop on a Saturday morning with a chair. I was there. I was there in a jumper with glue on it, drinking tea out of a mug that said Bell Row Bowls Club, sitting on an upturned crate, being extremely comfortable. The door went, and a woman came up the stairs carrying a small nursing chair with the arms hanging off. Thea, she said. Hi. Thea straightened up very slowly. Dilly. I know, that's my grandmother's chair. I know. You've had it 4 years. I know, Dilly said. That's sort of why I'm here. I want to be fair to Dilly because I was not fair to her at the time. She was 28. She was polite. She had brought the chair back because she was moving to Leeds, and she had decided correctly that she should not take a dead woman's chair to Leeds. She stayed 40 minutes. She and Thea talked about the arms and the webbing and a person called Marcus, and at one point they both laughed at the same time at something that had happened in a car park in 2021. I sat on my crate. I said almost nothing. I have replayed those 40 minutes many times, and the truth is that nothing happened in them. That is the whole problem with the 40 minutes. Nothing happened, and I still felt it. When Dilly left, Thea came and stood in front of my crate. Say it. There's nothing to say. You've gone quiet. You don't go quiet. I go quiet. You have never once gone quiet. I looked at the chair with its arms off. How long were they together? 3 years. 3? Romy. That's a long time. It was, and it ended badly, and I am telling you that with my whole chest. Then why did you laugh? The words came out before I had approved them. I heard them land. Thea did not flinch. Because it was funny, she said. In 2021, in a car park. Right. Ask me the actual question. That was the actual question. It wasn't. I put the mug down on the floor. Fine, I said. Do I have to be worried? No. Just no? Just no, she said. Was that hard? Horrible. Do it again next time. I did not do it again next time. Next time was worse, and it was not about Dilly at all. I should tell you about the Tuesdays properly, because they are the part I would keep if I could only keep one part. Rita Cardoso lives in a terraced house on Farrier Street with a backyard that has 11 pots in it and no plants, because she keeps meaning to. Tuesday is at 7. It has been at 7 since the March their father died. The first Tuesday I went, I was so nervous I brought 2 things, flowers and a cake. Rita opened the door, looked at both hands and said, "Which one's the apology?" "Both." "Good," she said. "Come in then." Here is what happens at a Tuesday. Rita cooks too much. Vero talks about work. Thea says 4 words for the first hour and then, at about 7:30, becomes an entirely different person and will not stop talking about wood. At some point, somebody says something about their father. Not a speech. 1 line. Somebody says, he'd have hated that, or he'd have taken the whole thing apart, and everybody agrees. And then it moves on. The first time it happened, I did not know where to look. By the 5th Tuesday, I said one myself. I said, he'd have loved the lift working. There was a small pause. He would, Rita said. And that was it. That was the whole ceremony. I went and stood in the hall for a minute. In January, Vero and I fell out. It began with a Tuesday. Vero and Thea have had a Tuesday since their father died. Every Tuesday, at their mother's, at 7, no exceptions. It is the single most organized thing about either of them. In January, I started being at Tuesday. Nobody asked me, it just happened by the 3rd week, the way things do. And their mother started putting out 4 plates without comment, which I found so overwhelming that I had to go and stand in the hall for a minute. Then, in the last week of January, Vero did not come. She texted, she had a thing. The next Tuesday, she did not come either. The third Tuesday, I stood in the kitchen at their mother's house and said, "Is Vero all right?" And their mother, who is called Rita, and who is a great deal sharper than she lets on, said, "Ask her." I found her in the car park of the dental practice on Cross Street. She was eating a sandwich in her car in the rain. I have since learned that this is her entire personality between 1 and 2. I knocked on the window. She wound it down 4 inches. "I'm on lunch." "I know, can I get in?" "It's a mess in here." "I've seen your van." "That's Thea's van." "It's still a mess." She let me in. I sat in the passenger seat with a foot on a coat and a pot of dental floss samples digging into my hip. "You stopped coming on Tuesday," I said. "I've been busy." "Vero?" "I've been busy." "You clean teeth." She laughed, and then she stopped laughing very fast. And then, to my complete horror, her chin went. "It's stupid," she said. "Tell me the stupid thing." "I introduced you," she said. "That's the stupid thing? I dragged her to that restaurant to drive me, and now she's got you, and you've got her, and you've both got Tuesday, and I'm the one who left." "Vero?" "I know it's not logical. It doesn't have to be." "I don't want her back," she said. "That's not what this is. I'm not competing for my sister." "I know. It's just that I've been the one who ruins things since we were 9. And for once I made a thing, and I made it by accident by running out of a restaurant, and now I'm not in it." The rain came harder on the roof. I sat with that for a moment, and then I did something I would not have done in October. I asked for something. "Come on Tuesday," I said. "I want you there." "You want me there?" "I want you there." That is a sentence I have had to work up to. Please do not make me say it twice. Vero wiped her face with the back of her wrist and made a noise that was half a laugh. "She's got to you," she said. "She has." "She's insufferable when she's right." "She's absolutely insufferable when she's right." "Fine," said Vero. "Tuesday." "Tuesday." Rita put out 4 plates without comment. I stood in the hall for a minute again, for a different reason. Then came the 2nd of March, which is the day everything stopped being small. I was at the counter at 9:10. There was a woman in front of me with a coffee machine and a face like weather. And the store manager walked through the 2nd floor with 2 people I had never seen before, and one of them had a folder. And I knew before anybody said anything. You always know. Everybody in a dyeing shop always knows. The email came at 11. Palisters would close at the end of June. All 4 floors. 140 years. Sylvie read it on her phone at the alterations booth. Then she put her phone face down on the counter, and she picked up a hem, and she carried on sewing. I went and stood next to her. Neither of us said anything for about a minute. 52 years, she said eventually. I know. I came in at 17 for the summer. I know. I still don't know what I'm going to do about the pins, she said. Then her voice went. I put my arm around her. We stood there in the middle of the 2nd floor while people walked past us carrying kettles. That night, Thea came round. She did not say anything useful. She did not say it would be fine, or that something would come along, or any of the sentences people reach for. She made food. She sat on the floor with her back against my good chair and let me talk for 2 hours about a shop. At about midnight, I said, "Say something." Anything." "You're going to be all right," she said. That's a sentence people say. It's also true. Both things can be true. It's very annoying, but it's how sentences work. I laughed into a cushion. "What about you?" I said. What about me? The benches. There was the smallest pause in the world. The benches are fine, she said. I want you to remember that pause. I did not at the time. March was a strange month in a closing shop. People came in who'd not come in for 20 years. They came to look. They stood on the second floor and told me about the toy department that has not existed since 1988. And the returns changed. I want to tell you about that because it is the strangest thing I have ever seen at a counter. When a shop is closing, people bring things back that they have no right to bring back. A man brought a suitcase from 2006. A woman brought a set of 6 glasses, unopened, in the original box. Her husband had bought them the week before he died. She had never been able to open them. She did not want them in the house anymore. She did not want them in a bin either. I took the glasses. I wrote unsuitable in the box because that is what she asked me to write. Then I got the brass stamp out of the drawer and stamped the back of the slip, received, and put it in the file. And I do not know why that helped, but it did. On the 11th of April, head office rang me, not an email, a phone call to the counter phone, which rings about twice a year. A woman called Pauline explained that Pallister's was one of 9 stores in the group, and that 7 of them were staying open, and that the group had a customer services function based in Carrick. We've looked at your figures, she said. My figures? Complaint resolution, you're at 96%. 96% of what? Of people who don't escalate. I sat down on the stool I was not supposed to sit on. It was a real job. Team leader, customer resolution, Carrick, $6,000 a year more than I had ever earned. A course they would pay for. A start date of the 4th of August. Carrick is 190 miles away. I stood in the stairwell by the fire door and read the email 11 times. Then I did a thing I am not proud of. I did not tell her. Not that night, not the next night, not on the Tuesday. I told Ilse because Ilse got it out of me in about 90 seconds over a sandwich. When's the start date? August. And what did she say? I did not answer. Ilse put her sandwich down. Romy, I'm going to. When? When I know what I'm going to do. That's backwards, Ilse said. That is completely backwards, and you know it is. Here is why I did not tell her. And I am going to be exact about it, because vagueness is how I got into this. If I told her, she would be kind. She would be so kind. She would say that of course I should take it, and that Carrick is 2 hours, and that people do 2 hours. And then she would sit down in that kindness and stay me in it. And in 11 months, I would have moved to Carrick with a good job and a 2-hour drive and a woman who had never once said the word stay. I did not want her to be kind. I wanted her to want me to stay. And I could not ask for that, because asking for that is the single hardest thing I know how to do. And I had been practicing for 6 months and I was not ready. So instead I let it rot for 19 days. She found out from a bench. That is not a joke. The fitting room bench on the 3rd floor was going to auction with everything else. The auction people sent a list to every contractor on the store's file. The list had a covering letter about the closure. The letter mentioned redeployment to Carrick. She read it on a Wednesday morning at 7 on the 3rd floor in the empty store. I came up at 9, and she was sitting on the bench with the letter in her hand. Team leader, she said. I stopped walking. Thea, customer resolution, Carrick. I was going to tell you. When? When I decided. She folded the letter in half, then in half again. She did not look angry. That was the terrible part. Have you decided? No. Then there was nothing to hide. I wasn't hiding. Romy, she said, you have known for 19 days. How do you know it's 19? Because it's dated, she said. Because I can read. We had the argument in the car park behind Pallister's, next to the bins, in the rain, which is not where anybody wants to have the important conversation of their life. I didn't tell you because I knew what you'd say, I said. You don't know what I'd say. You'd say take it. Yes. There, I knew. That's not the same as knowing what I'd say, she said. That's knowing the first 4 words. Then say the rest. You didn't give me the chance. She was right. She was so completely right that I did the thing I do when I'm losing, which is to become extremely reasonable. It's a good job, I said. It's $6,000 more. They pay for the course. I know. People do 2 hours. They do. So there's no problem. There's no problem, she said. And then we stood there in the rain by the bins with no problem at all. And I have never felt worse in my life. It went bad for 2 weeks after that, in the quietest possible way. We did not shout. Neither of us shouts. We were polite, which is so much worse. She stopped coming on Wednesday. I stopped going to Bell Row after work. We texted like colleagues. On the 9th of May at 11:30 at night, she rang me. Are you awake? Yes. I need to say a thing, and I need to say it badly, because I've been trying to say it well for 2 weeks and I can't. Okay. I lost the store contract, she said. I sat up in the dark. What? The benches, 4 rooms, 3 floors, every 3 years. It's been on the books since 2011. It's 31% of the workshop's year. Since when do you know? Since the 2nd of March. The 2nd of the day of the email, the same day. You said the benches were fine. I know what I said. Thea. You had lost your shop, she said. Your Sylvie was crying about pins. I was not going to put my invoice on top of that. I want to explain what happened in my chest at that moment. And the honest answer is that 2 things happened at once and they did not agree. The first was relief. Enormous, disgraceful relief. She had hidden something too. We were the same. The second was much bigger and much slower. You did the exact thing I did, I said. Yes. For 9 weeks? Yes. That's worse. That's 4 times worse. It's 5 times worse, she said. I can also count. Neither of us said anything for a while. I could hear the workshop behind her. She was there at 11:30 at night. Of course she was there. Why are we like this? I said. I've been thinking about that for 2 weeks. And you take things so nobody has to explain them. I take things apart so nobody has to look at them. It's the same disease. I said that on the 3rd floor in October, and I thought I was being clever. You were being clever. I was being accurate, she said, which is different and much more inconvenient. She came round at midnight. She stood in my doorway in a wet coat with her hair down, and I opened the door, and neither of us moved for about 4 seconds. I want to say it properly, she said. Say it. I don't want you to stay. That's not... Let me finish. I don't want you to stay. If you stay in Thirlby for me, you will be 40 and pleasant, and you will hate me in a way neither of us will be able to point at. I've seen it. My mother did it. Ask her about the college place sometime. I stood there with my hand still on the door. So what do you want? I want you to go to Carrick, she said. And I want to be the person you come back to. And I want to be asked, once, out loud, by you. I asked. It took me a long time, and I did it badly. Stay tonight, I said. And my voice did something on the second word that I would like stricken from the record. That's the whole thing? That's not the whole thing. Then say the whole thing. I looked at her in my doorway. I love you, I said. I've loved you since the screwdriver. I would like you to be here on the days I'm here. I would like to know you're there on the days I'm not. I am asking, out loud. And I would like an answer, please. I've never done this before. I would like to know if it works. The rain came off her coat onto my floor. It works, she said. The idea came from Sylvie, and she does not know that, and I have never told her. It was the last week of May. She was at the booth with about 9 coats and no work, because nobody alters a coat in a shop that is closing. 52 years, she said. And the thing I'll miss is Wednesdays. Why Wednesdays? Wednesday's mending, she said. Monday and Tuesday is hems for weddings. Thursday and Friday is trousers. Wednesday, people bring me things that are broken. And they always apologize. Every single one of them says, sorry for bringing it. I stood very still. They apologize for bringing you a broken thing. Every time, said Sylvie. As if it's rude to want to keep something. I wrote the proposal that night, on the floor, with my back against my good chair. It took me 4 hours. It was 2 pages long. And it was the first thing I have ever written that I did not hedge. The Palisters group has 7 stores. Every one of them has a returns counter. Every returns counter takes back things that are not broken. I proposed a repairs desk, not a policy, a counter, 6 feet of it, next to returns, staffed. You bring the thing. We tell you what is actually wrong with it. If it is small, we do it. If it is not, we know a person, and the person is local, and we take the booking. I called it repairs, not returns, which I now accept is not a good name. I put a costing in. I put Sylvie's Wednesday numbers in. I put a line in about how 31% of a small workshop's year can sit inside one contract, and how a group of 7 stores could hold 4 of those workshops without noticing. And at the bottom, because I could not help myself, I put a photograph of a slip with "did not work out" written in the box, next to a photograph of the lamp plugged in, working. Pauline rang back in 11 days. They wanted the training post filled first, 8 weeks in Carrick from August, then a pilot in 2 stores from October, and if I would consider running it, they would consider funding it. I said I would consider it. I put the phone down and screamed into a stockroom shelf for 9 seconds, and Otto came round the corner and did not comment, which is the single kindest thing he has ever done. The last day at Palisters was the 28th of June. We closed at 4 instead of 6. The escalators were switched off at 3:30. Somebody found the key to the brass gate on Ray's old lift, and it worked, and the whole ground floor cheered at a lift. Sylvie took the pins out of her cardigan and put them in a tin. Ilse gave away 11 testers to 11 strangers and cried at the second one. At 3:50, a woman came to my counter with a toaster and a receipt from April. "Am I too late?" she said. "You're not too late." I took the toaster. I gave her the money. I got the slip out and I pushed it across, and she looked at the box. "What do I put?" "Whatever's true," I said. She thought about it. She wrote, "My son bought it for a flat he didn't move into." I read it twice. Then I got my grandfather's stamp out of the drawer for the last time. I stamped the back of it, received, and put it in the file. The file went in a crate. The crate went to a warehouse in Carrick. I suspect it is still there. Thea took the Market Hall unit in July. It is a bad unit. It leaks at the back, and the light is wrong, and the rent is $900 a month. She took it anyway, because it has a window on Bell Street, and people walk past a window. She put a chair in the window with the seat off. Just that, one chair, frame exposed, webbing gone, on a low plinth, with a small blank card beside it. People stopped. People stop all day. By September, she had 11 bookings from the window alone, which is more than the benches ever were. And I have never once said I told you so, and she knows. And that is worse for her. I went to Carrick on the 4th of August. 8 weeks. A room above a bakery. A course with 19 people on it, 4 of whom I now text regularly. I came back every Friday. I want to say the distance was fine. It was not fine. It was 190 miles of it being not fine, and there were 2 Sundays in September where we both said things on the phone that we did not mean. But here is the difference, and it is the whole difference. I asked. Every single week, at least once, I asked for a thing out loud. Come on Friday. Ring me at 9. Say it again. Tell me you want me back. It never got easy. It got possible, which turns out to be a different and better thing. Vero came to Carrick in week 6 with a bag of food her mother had made and a cat carrier she absolutely should not have brought. Why is the cat here? He gets anxious. Vero. He gets anxious, Romy. We sat on the floor of a room above a bakery and ate a lasagna with 2 forks and no plates. And at about 11, she said, "Can I tell you something insane?" Always. I'm glad I walked out. Of Fenimore's? Of Fenimore's. If I'd stayed, we'd have had a nice dinner, and you'd have texted me twice, and it would have gone nowhere, and my sister would still be at that workshop at midnight on her own. I did not say anything for a moment. That is quite a lot to put on one bad Thursday, I said. It's the only good thing I've ever ruined, said Vero. The pilot started in October in 2 stores, and it is going, and it is fine. And there is a great deal of paperwork, and none of that is the end of the story. This is the end of the story. On the 10th of November, we went back to Fenimore's. Not for a reason. Neither of us noticed the date until we were already sitting down, which I think is better. Same room. Green banquettes, the same breadbasket policy. They put us at a table for 2 by the window. Thea took the chair with its back to the room. I sat down opposite her, and I looked at the empty air beside us, where a coat had once been. What? She said. Nothing. You're doing a face. You do the face, I don't do the face. You absolutely do the face. The waiter came. It was the same waiter. I am almost certain it was the same waiter, and I am almost certain he remembered. And he was far too professional to say so. We got to the end of the mains, and Thea put her napkin on the table and said, "Right, I'm going to get some air." I looked up so fast I hurt my neck. She was already laughing. "You are a horrible person," I said. "I've waited a year to do that." A year and 8 days. You counted. You measured. She sat back and turned the silver ring around her thumb once, and then back. That is what she does now when she is not deciding anything at all. I have decided it is my favorite thing in the world. "Do you want dessert?" she said, and I said it. "Order the dessert, I'm staying." She did not say anything to that. She reached across the table and put her hand flat over mine, the way she puts it on my back at a road without appearing to notice she is doing it. I noticed. I always notice. There is one more thing. When we cleared out the second floor in June, I kept one slip, a blank one. Green, with the gold box, from a shop that does not exist anymore. It is on the shelf in the flat, next to a lamp that works and a bear that nobody grew out of. Last week, I took it down and I filled it in, because I am the kind of person who does that, and because after all this time, I finally had something true to put in the box. Under item, I wrote, 1 chair, taken up on a Thursday. And under reason for return, I wrote, not returning it. Then I put it back on the shelf. The frame was always fine,